Hey guys, and welcome back. This week we've gotten a few polls out that are state-specific in nature for the 2020 Democratic primary. Sometimes these state-specific results can be a little bit more interesting than what we're getting on the national scale. You can get a little bit more of a different picture possibly than what those national numbers might say. So the three states that we've had come out this week are from Colorado, California, as well as New Hampshire. The Colorado poll is from Public Policy Polling. The California one is from Quinnipiac, and then the New Hampshire one is from the University of New Hampshire, and all of them are relatively small sample sizes, so that is something to keep in mind as well. All of these polls are in the range of around 400 to 500 respondents, so again, not massive sample sizes by any means. So starting off here in the state of Colorado from this public policy poll, we go down to the fourth question, and they asked if all of these candidates were your option, who would you vote for in the Democratic primary? And Colorado's a little bit different. They put the Colorado governor here and the senator from the state of Colorado, which are John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet, respectively. So in no other state are these candidates going to get 7 and 5 percentage points. And if I had to guess, the one candidate that's getting hurt most by this might be Kamala Harris, who's down here at 9 percentage points. But we see Joe Biden at 22%, Elizabeth Warren at 19%, Bernie Sanders at 15 percentage points. And I think that this might be a little bit lower than what Bernie Sanders in particular might actually do in the state of Colorado, because if we go down and take a look at the demographics here, the younger people in this particular public policy poll might be a little bit underrepresented here, only 12% between the ages of 18 to 29, 22% between the ages of 30 to 45. And this is where Bernie Sanders does head and shoulders above the other candidates typically in these polling results that we get, where there was a lot of older people sampled in this result. So that might be part of the reason why Joe Biden was able to come in first place, but still relatively competitive amongst those top three options, with Biden at 22, Warren at 19, and Sanders at 15 percentage points. So now going over and taking a look at this Quinnipiac poll out of the state of California, and Kamala Harris able to boost up her numbers, now in first place. She's coming in here at 23 percentage points, followed by former Vice President Joe Biden at 21%. And then the other candidates here, we have Bernie Sanders at 18%, Elizabeth Warren at 16%. Mayor Pete Buttigieg not doing quite as well here at just 3 percentage points. Andrew Yang there at 2 percentage points. And if we take a look here, 26% of the voters in this particular poll said that Biden would be the best leader, followed by 18% for Kamala Harris, 17% for Sanders, 14% for Warren. They say 28% that Warren has the best policy ideas, 20% following that for Bernie Sanders. And in the state of California, the Democratic voters, anyways, generally going to be a little bit more on the liberal progressive side. So having the two most progressive candidates here, Warren and Bernie, be atop the list of best policy is probably to be expected. And then 45% think that Biden has the best chance to beat Donald Trump, followed by Sanders down at 12% and 11% for Harris and Warren, respectively. And if we take a look back at a previous Quinnipiac poll out of the state of California back in April, we can see that the numbers have changed a bit. Biden was at 26%, so he was in first place, followed by 18% for Bernie Sanders, and that's the same 18% that Sanders has right now, and then 17% for Harris and 7% for Warren. So a big jump for Elizabeth Warren, also Kamala Harris, while Biden has taken a step back and Bernie Sanders pretty consistent there at the same number. Now to wrap this video up, going to be taking a look at this New Hampshire poll. And people are starting to decide who they're going to be voting for, but there's still a lot of people that are in that trying to decide category. It's now at 64%. You can see how this has been trending in recent months. 20% are leaning towards someone, and 16% said that they have definitely decided. So still a lot up for grabs in an early state like New Hampshire. If we take a look at the favorabilities of these candidates in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are at the top, and basically the exact same numbers essentially in terms of their favorability, followed by Joe Biden, who actually has a pretty high number unfavorable there in contrast to some of these other upper tier candidates. And then you have Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg behind them. But what's interesting about that is even though Joe Biden has the highest number of unfavorable there in this particular poll, he's still leading the pack when we take a look at the numbers at 24% support, followed by Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who are each at 19% respectively. Now, when we get around to New Hampshire, I'd be surprised personally if Sanders and Warren weren't the top two vote getters because New Hampshire very close in proximity to Vermont as well as Massachusetts, and I think that their progressive policies can play very well with this voter electorate in the Democratic primary. So we'll see how that plays out, but we can see how things have been trending from the University of New Hampshire poll from their state of New Hampshire. And notoriously, you can get big swings in the numbers from this particular poll because the sample size is pretty small at around, I think this one was 360, somewhere in that range. So pretty small numbers. You can see a massive swing for Elizabeth Warren from where she was back in April at just 5%, now up here at 19 percentage points, while Bernie Sanders, a big step down where he was at 30% going down to 19%. So maybe quite a bit of that progressive vote might have gone over to Elizabeth Warren's side. And again, you can get these big swings in this New Hampshire poll because of the small sample size, so I wouldn't put too much of an emphasis thinking that Bernie might be absolutely collapsing and Elizabeth is surging, but there is something to take out of this at the very least. Joe Biden also, maybe somewhat surprisingly, seeing his numbers go up a bit from where they were back in April at 18%, here at 24 percentage points. So these are the three state-specific polls that I wanted to touch on from Colorado, California, and New Hampshire. If you enjoy this type of content, click that subscribe button. If you're interested in looking at all this data for yourself, I'll have links posted down in the video description.